Welcome to the Minnesota Rovers Tuesday evening presentation. Minnesota Rovers is an outdoors club based in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Our members organize trips that range from 1 hour to 2 weeks in Minnesota or further afield. Examples of our activities include hiking, biking, backpacking, skiing, snowshoeing, paddling, and rock climbing. We also organize conservation and trail clearing trips. Our members have experience and skills in many outdoor activities, so if you want to learn a new outdoor activity, we can probably help you. For more information, go to mnrovers.org. Now let's move on to this week's presentation.
Tonight, we will be learning about adventures in winter cycling. And tonight's presenter has been commuting by bike for the last 30 plus years in Boston and Minneapolis and is still hard at it. She's a gadget queen by nature and has tried all different apparel and equipment, and she's happy to share her triumphs, failures, and insights with us. So please welcome Margaret.
Hello, hello. That picture makes me laugh because, that's snow. That picture was taken getting home from some ride home, probably February, March, a couple of years ago. So that one was gnarly and I don't miss it, but this feels totally weird right now. So this experiments in winter cycling, I was thinking about like, oh man, this seems really weird. I thought early February, this would be a perfect time to talk about cycling in the winter. And I was talking to Stacy, it's like April. It doesn't feel like winter right now, but so we'll talk about it in theory, or if it gets cold and snowy coming forward or whatever. I also was thinking as I put this together that people might have different thoughts about what that even means, winter cycling. Many people think it's the fat tire doing trails, recreational riding and stuff. And it's like, that is not what I do at all. So that whole category of stuff, it's like, if I can't do it out of my backyard, I'm not gonna think about hauling my bike someplace to do something. So this is really, I was thinking, well, what should I call it? I could call it urban winter cycling, because that's pretty much what I do, because from my house. And then it's like, oh, functional urban, because it's like grocery shopping and going to the store. And sometimes it's just because I got to get out of here. And then it's like, well, it's sort of community. So I don't know, it's maybe I misnamed this, but maybe not. So it's all things I've tried, how my thinking's evolved over time. Again, my background, I first started commuting by bike in Boston, which was kind of crazy to think about because it was, metal grid bridges. And when those are wet, that's a little scary, and roundabouts and stuff like that. But that got me started. And then when I moved here, it seemed easy. And so I remember the job I am now, I went for my interview on a bike and I had something nice to wear in my pack. And so it's been kind of a hardcore thing since the commuting part. But mostly I then went public transportation in the winter, didn't even think about winter. It's been 10 years or maybe a little bit more that I thought, well, let's just push this and see what happens. And boy, it was really a big deal. I would say one thing that really changed my mind a lot about riding in the winter was studded tires. That was a big change that made all the difference in the world. And the first time I got them, the world cooperated with an ice storm, like within the first couple of weeks. And I thought, well, this is when you try it. And it was so great because it felt like dry pavement until I put my foot down on the ground. And then it was like, no, don't put your feet down ever. Just stay on your bike. So that was cool. And that gave me a big boost to just like, okay, keep riding, keep riding, keep riding. Okay, so this was the biggest push, is to just extend my bike commute season. It's convenient. I loved it. And I always felt sad when I had to stop. And it's always harder to get going in the spring. So it's always better if I just don't have to stop, because getting going once I have stopped is hard. So that made me think, okay, make clear to myself all these positive things. It's getting outside, it's exercise, it's this big kind of 2-for-1, which I'm a fan of, meaning I got to go to work anyway, and I can get exercise at the same time. So why wouldn't I? The cheap thing, I don't know about that. There's a fair amount of equipment involved, and and it does tend to make people like me have an excuse to buy another pair of gloves, another blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if it's cheaper in the grand scheme, environmentally, et cetera. I think it still is. It's way convenient. Convenience of parking. I mean, my employer also has a bike room indoors, so that makes it secure, and I can, it's warm, and that makes a huge difference. The other thing is when people talk about traffic, or especially bad, it's like, well, it doesn't affect me unless, snow. Weather will definitely affect it. The big thing, I said this in a different slide, is this was kind of a revelation probably 4 years ago, when it was really depressingly cold for a stretch. The snow wasn't too bad, but it was so cold that I just could not talk myself into getting on a bike in the morning. And then I realized, like, oh, on days I don't work, I could ride in the middle of the day when it might be sunny and the temperatures are 10, 15, 20 degrees warmer, or catch a time when the wind is better. And it's like, oh, that was great. And it meant that maybe I didn't ride my bike 5 days a week or 4 days a week, but maybe twice a week or something. And that was way better than 0 times. And it kept me in the loop. And that was a really good thing. And then the negatives are just like, I chew up bikes. I always have a dedicated winter bike, and the maintenance is important on that. And it's pretty necessary to have somebody go through and see what it needs once a year. And everything takes so much longer. And it's a thing that as the winter weather gets going, as I forget a little bit and I'm late to work for a little while, but the layers and the making sure this, that, and the other thing, it's a cumbersome process, but what isn't? Bike maintenance, that's a good thing for me to talk about with other bike commuters, bike riders in the winter, because I'm sure my bike would last longer if I could figure out how to do this. And I don't have a good way of getting my bike indoors other than at work, where I'm not likely to do a bunch of maintenance. So it's just cold when it's at home, and I'm not going to do much in the cold, and it doesn't make sense to do much in the cold. So there is just kind of it's a given that the maintenance is going to be fairly terrible. And if it's a year where there's a lot of salt and sand, yeah, I mean, you can imagine what that does to your bike. Okay, so the bike itself, equipment-wise, like I said, I have a winter bike, and that became important when it finally sunk into me that the studded tires, which I think of as critical, they have a different rim, and they're much harder to put on and take off a wheel than a regular tire is. And I thought I was imagining that, but when I took it into the shop and was just like, you do it, they said, oh yeah, it's way harder. And you can really hurt your fingers. And I thought, okay, that's why I have the nice bike shop. I'm not doing that anymore. So if I'm not going to take tires off and on, that turns it into a whole other. So it was a Craigslist Schwinn bike, which I think I have a nice picture. And this is pretty much my exact one. It's blue and it's a Frontier Schwinn, but it's not this Frontier Schwinn. So that's a big deal. Again, I don't do the fat tire thing. This is a 26-inch, and it's a wide-ish tire. This is very much what I have, except, I don't know if this has studs, but mine does. And those are expensive, but this is probably year 4 on the pair that I have, and they still seem to be working just fine. So it goes for a while, but I have 6 bikes, and this is one of them. So there's that. Lighting, big deal, and discussions about where to put that on your head, on your, all of this stuff. And so interestingly, I looked up what the Minnesota statutes say about this. And I think it said different things over different times. This, I seem to remember something about 30 minutes before sunset and 30 minutes after sunrise, that it's important to have lighting. I don't see that in here anywhere. They do talk about a headlamp clear and a taillight that's red, and how, you know, it's like, this is not crystal clear though either. And I don't think anyone's gonna pull you over for not having this, but I feel like it's pretty important in the winter when it's already, lanes are narrowed and things are slippery. It's like, I want to look like a party going down the street that everyone can see me from a mile away. So reflecting, I mean, I like to reflect and flash and be able to see what I'm doing. I found this thing on the left is it's like a runner's reflective thing that works great over a jacket and pretty visible wherever. I also have a vest kind of thing that's, you know, things get pretty dirty too. So there's that. This thing, my employer, University of Minnesota, Boynton Health, they sell bike helmets and lights in the pharmacy, which I think is brilliant because it's a health and wellness thing. This thing is great because it not only reflects, it flashes or just shines red, and you can put it around a dog neck, you can put it around your arm, you can put it around your leg, and it's a pretty visible thing. So that's a new acquisition that I like a lot. Apparel we could talk about forever, so I'm just kind of jumping around and hit or miss showing what I've tried. I found that I mean, I wear glasses, but the wind gets around those and my eyes tear, and it makes it really unpleasant and really hard to see. So the ones on the left here are great if you don't wear glasses, but I do wear glasses. So these kind of big fly eye over glass things are great. Again, in the winter, most of them that you find like that are sunglasses. So they're darkening, and that's not good in the winter because I'm riding before sunrise or after sunset. And so, but they do make them clear or yellow. And I have a couple of pairs of those, and they don't fit great, but they do a decent job of keeping wind off my face. But they're not good if it gets really cold. So if it gets really cold, it's the ski goggle thing. And this was a big change for me too. When I finally got a pair of ski goggles, it's horrible because you got the goggles and the ear thing and a helmet and a hood, and you got 18 layers of stuff on there. But the thing that the goggles do is they come down far enough on my nose that they keep my nose warm, which I find impossible to keep warm because I don't like the balaclava face cover thing that much. So the goggles did an amazing job of keeping, cold and wind off my eyes and keeping my nose warm, which is great. So love those, but there's enough of a hassle that I don't wear them unless it's really cold, which I did that once this winter so far. It was 10 degrees and I thought, this is my afternoon. It was sunny and it was 10 degrees and there wasn't wind. So I'm like, I'm going to go out and try all my stuff. And it was fabulous. So this is a big thing about riding a bike or maybe doing anything in the winter is it feels like a total win. If you can pull it off and be outside and be comfortable, that's great. Money in the bank. Ear cover is also huge. These ear bags, and I don't know if people know what they are. They're the funniest little weird things. They're just two little individual things that fit around your ears. And I love them. And shockingly, I don't lose them like crazy. I mostly hang on to them, but they're very low profile and they're good under a helmet unless the straps are in the wrong place and all of that. Nothing's perfect, but those I like a lot. Or these really thin, the Swix earmuff things I like also because they're very thin. The strap over the top sometimes interferes with the helmet in a way that's unpleasant, but your head might be different than my head. This is the only mask I've ever had work for me for winter stuff. And this is where this overlaps with every other winter sport anybody does. But this one, for some reason, I guess it's the, you know, the little hole under here lets enough humidity out that it's not horrible to wear. So in a pinch, I'll wear one of those, but I try hard not to. What else we got? Okay, hands. I got a pair of these lobster claw gloves, and I can't remember if they're the ones like on the right or the left. But the idea is that the more you can clump fingers together, the greater the chance they're going to stay warm. And I feel I can't remember. I think it was like the ones on the right. And I'd end up like putting all my fingers in one or the other and turning them into mittens. Anyway, they were not that warm in my experience. So mittens or heated, these are also interesting. I've gone down kind of every rabbit hole here. They're not bad. What's true for me about hands and feet is if my hands don't go in warm to start with, it kind of doesn't matter what I do. So these were good if I warmed them up for like 20 minutes before I went out. But you know, it's like there's only so many projects I can do to get in my process of getting outside. So they're huge and they're heavy because these had a battery pack on them. You know, they probably get better every year, but I'm not going to buy a new pair every year. So these sit in the shelf mostly. Feet, huge concern. I've got some battery powered socks. Same thing there though. If my feet are cold or at least not even warm when I go in, these little heated wires don't do a lot. Heated insoles, like electric insoles, I haven't tried those. Those seem like they might be interesting, and maybe there's more potential to heat a more generalized area than just feeling it. Because on the socks, I would feel like hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and maybe the insoles spreads that around a little bit better. And then there's the old, you know, inserts, hot hands, hot feet insoles. But I just hate to use stuff and then throw it away. So I use those in a pinch, but I haven't used them much. Covers thing, I mean, I have some Gore-Tex little boot cover things, and I, for some reason, don't use those. I made some out of like totes overshoes, cut them up to fit my particular boots, and those work pretty well. More of a water thing, but definitely helpful in the wind and keeping your feet relatively dry. But I think this is kind of redoing what we tried. The bar mitts, this was kind of, I thought this was awesome when they first came into my life. They messed with my ability to have a mirror. I'm a big mirror user on my handlebars. And at first, this didn't have a hole for my mirror. So that was a problem. Took me a couple of years to realize I could make a hole in the side of these and put my mirror on. Okay, that's one option. They also come with a hole if you want to do that. But then the taking on and putting them on, taking off and putting them on if you want to not leave them on. I find I don't end up using them. They're great because they keep the wind off your hands and you can have, you know, more agile hands that go in and out of those if you want to do any number of things. But they've got their own little kind of downside thing. Snot management is kind of a big thing for me on a bike because it seems like it is constant, and the more geared up I am, the harder that is to figure out. The thing that I have not actually made, but I've thought of for years, is having like a flannel or a terry just piece of fabric on the back of my hand with a little elastic thing that goes around my palm that I can, you know, snot away on it and then have another one for the next day. Of course, I haven't done that, but I think it's a brilliant idea. So if someone wants to patent it, I'm in. So there's that. And this is part of why having something covering my face doesn't feel like a good idea to me. So that one I have not cracked that problem yet. Boots, I don't clip in. I finally bought a pair of winter bike boots to just see what that would feel like. And they're cool because they're warm and they fit snugly. fit is critical for me. If my feet don't have enough room, it doesn't matter how great they are, my feet are just going to be frozen. So what I found is just kind of thrift store boots that have to have the right contour, because I have like a boot cage on my bike and it has to fit in there. If it's too bulky of a toe, then I can either not go in very far or I have to, so it's like that. The pair I have that works the best is kind of a ladies pair of leather zip up on the inside boots, but they come up high and they're leather, so they stay soft, and they've got fleece lining and stuff, so they're kind of fabulous. So they don't have to be super, super warm, because once they get the blood flowing, I just need wind off of them and a little room and like that. The ankle thing is huge. Once it gets cold, that intersection needs to be, and gaiters can be helpful. Ugh, I tell you, but you can have 500 pieces of stuff on you, which is part of what the drawback is here. Legs, everybody who goes outside in the winter has their own leg concepts here. So things that have kind of become the issues for me over time is that winter cycling doesn't equal snow cycling. It's sometimes it's snow, and that's probably the thing that will shut me down as fast as if it gets really cold, is a lot of loose snow, unplowed snow. That is like not my jam. My tires don't do well. And my technique has gotten better as far as fishtailing and all that, but I don't love it. And it's so slow. And that's when I just shelve the whole thing and take the train. Keeping my nose keeps much of my face warm, wind off my eyes, warm fingers, warm toes. And that morning commute thing, and that is the tough part, that will shut me down. Even when I know it's going to be 20 degrees warmer or 10 degrees warmer in the afternoon when I come home, it is a hard thing to talk myself into. And I'm not very warm in the morning. So it's really hard to go into that commute feeling warmed up already. So that's a problem. And the thing I didn't mention about bikes is and it's me to a large extent, but getting over a standard crossbar is does not work for me at all in the winter. It's got to be a drop bar frame, and it's got to be able to move, my whatever I'm wearing on my legs. It's got to let me lift my leg up over that, because it's otherwise I can't get on and off the bike. And that's one of the things that makes me more worried about falling and stuff, is if I can't maneuver very well. So that leaves kind of the things that will shut down my bike riding in the winter is worrying about what happens if something breaks down with my bike. For the most part, I am resigned to the fact, I'm not going to do anything about it if something happens with my bike. And AAA does have a feature where you can call them with a bike breakdown, and I believe they will take you and your bike somewhere. So I haven't tested that out yet. Happily, I haven't had the occasion to. But I think that for a while they had it, but it was only in Hennepin County, and I worked some in St. Paul, and I thought, well, that's stupid. So I think it's a broader spectrum service now, and it's very great of them to do it, but I haven't tried it. So my approach is really, if I can't call someone right away, I would just lock it to something and figure out public transportation or a Lyft ride or something like that. Falling is less worrisome than breaking down, because falling, number one, you're wearing all these clothes. I think it would be kind of hard to hurt myself very much, but it's also much harder to get back up. And you'd hate to get hit by a car or something while you're doing that. But I mean, that's another approach for me, is it's mostly commuting, so it's a lot on roads, and I feel fine about taking up a full lane and a full road under some circumstances, because, look, it's slow, and we're all going to take however long we're going to take, and I'm going to be right out in the middle, because then there's not a question of whether or not you can pass me. You're just going to have to wait. So, and bike paths get shoveled, and they get cleared pretty well if needed, if it's not 55 degrees out. So things that I need to figure out are better maintenance ideas for my bike And what another thing that crazily I have not done yet is how to combine, like maybe I could go to work with my bike in the morning when it's horribly cold and come back and ride home. But that seems like a lot of work to do that combination. So I have not done that yet. So I think that is all I have here. Yes, I will stop. There you go. Questions, comments, thoughts, complaints?
I know people that will ride their bike and then take the bus up the hill.
Oh, yeah, well, yep. I like hill climbing though, so there's that. But yeah, this is the thing, and it's crazy. I don't think I've ever done a bike bus combo thing, which is insane.
Yeah, kind of by that ilk, I I had a breakdown in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, and I would call a Rover, and he said, "Well, I can pick you up in a couple hours," but he said you could just hop on a bus, and it took a little while to figure out how to do that deal. But yeah, I had a nice conversation with the driver on the way back. And the train is even better because
Yep.
they have hooks. You can hang your bike on there, and I was biking with somebody who's kind of decided they wanted to end the ride, so in the middle. So I said, well, let's see, there's a train nearby here. We could hop on the train, and so it's pretty slick. It's actually, but
Yeah, I feel like there's
Yeah.
great potential there. I need to
Yeah.
tap into that better.
yeah.
Hey, Margaret, you mentioned briefly about roundabouts, and I'm wondering if you have some tips for
Okay.
specifically for the biker and for the driver.
Well,
Other
this is-
drivers that are around you in order to
Yeah.
respect the bike lanes or whatever.
And there's more of that now for sure. These roundabouts
Yeah,
are,
there's more and more of them.
yeah. I mean, I think an assertive body language on a bike is your best bet. And being seen, totally whatever colored and reflecting whatever. And then just making it clear, like when coming into a roundabout, I'm going to take up this lane and I'm going to, just kind of do it like everybody else. And, there's plenty of places, I think they're getting smarter about the places where there are roundabouts. There's, a bike lane off somewhere else or something, places I'm aware of, there can be that too. But yeah, that's a trick. I mean, the one time I came into contact with a car on my bike was at a roundabout in Boston, where they were used to those, but it was dark and and I mean, to me, eye contact's another thing too, is I'm going around and I'm seeing a car coming up. I am staring at them. I'm staring them down, saying like, you see me, right? You see me? You see me? I'm going, you see me?
Mm-hmm.
So that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Ugh.
So how far were you commuting to work typically in Minneapolis and Boston?
Boston was probably 5-ish miles, something like that. And it wasn't ever winter, but it was inclement weather. Here, I don't think I did. There was one job I had where it was 10 miles or so. And I don't think I pushed that ever very far into the winter because there's just too many unknowns. Here it's either 3.5, 4 miles or 5-ish miles, something like that.
Yeah, I was hit by a driver once. Luckily, it was not severe or anything, but so I've gotten to using a lot of hand signals, and sometimes I use something you can't do in a car. Is I'll point if I'm going straight because there's cars crossing, and so a lot of them like, oh, thank you for doing that.
Right.
Because then they know what to do, and I know what to do. It's
Yep.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
yeah, but yeah, but yeah, keeping that eye contact is very important because that's when I got hit. I didn't have eye contact with that person.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there's-
and you can tell when
yeah.
someone's trying not to look at you too. I mean, that's a signal also when someone is like, no, I'm not, like, well, hello, here I am. And I yell sometimes too. I mean, yelling, that helps.
Yeah, I've been in some close calls where I may have said a few words, but yeah, I want to let them know I'm where I am, and it's
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
But, Yeah.
Yes.
Usually I know 4-letter words usually.
Stacy, you were saying something. Oh man, I cannot hear you.
The chat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's stuff in chat. Okay. Yep. Bike sport, yeah. Chemical hand warmer. And the thing about chemical for feet, I think the chemical hand warmers, and I think I was told that a lot of them are made out of charcoal and pretty environmentally friendly things. The problem with hands is though I'm leaning on my hands and it's usually in your palm and it just like that doesn't work. I don't know if it like putting it in the back of your hand in the back of a glove would work. But it's always my fingers that are dying, so they don't get down into that part. And Uber, I've never tried like a Lyft or an Uber saying, can you take me and my bike? I don't know if that's a possibility. Well, in this, okay, you mean more like a woman's frame. I resent those being called women's frames. They are frames for anyone who has any difficulty lifting their leg up or someone who has shorter limbs. That is not a gender thing. So sorry, I'm sure you have no offense to Judy, because that's fine, but it is, and you find that there's different language around that these days, because it is not a male-female thing, excuse me very much.
Yeah, it used to be a boys or girls bike, but now it's a step through or a Dutch bike or
Yep.
a crossbar bike. Yeah.
Yep.
The crossbar bikes are stronger, I think, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Yep.
but the step throughs are really nice with the if you can't get your leg over the bar,
Yep.
it's
yep.
really
And
nice.
yeah, right, exactly. I mean, and the nice thing is there's way more choices about bike frame configurations than there used to be. There's a very low step through that are really just, maybe 8 inches above the ground. And then there's all these different modifications. So that's the good part. Lots of choices.
You don't mind me using this as a forum. I have a lot of trouble with my feet getting really cold in the winter. So if
Yes.
anybody's got some great ideas, let me know. I've tried a lot of years, but
Yeah.
I just got these silicone boot covers. I haven't tried yet though, so
Yeah.
maybe that'll work.
My best shot is when I'm warm already and putting them into boots that have enough space in them. Then I can kind of do just about everything. But everybody's so different about these things that it's hard to know what will work.
But you're right, it's really great get out in the winter.
Oh.
And the fat bikes are pretty good in that you can go a little bit more in heavier snow, although I've tried crossing lakes in a foot of snow, it doesn't work.
Right. Well, it seems like that's where they have an advantage is loose snow. But they weigh a ton and you need a separate bike and it's a heavy frame and, I don't want to invest, and they're expensive too. So haven't gone down that path.
Yeah.
Electric bike. I was noticing how few there are on the road these days, and it is getting warm. I would expect to see them come back out. I bet they have the same issue that Teslas have and all the other cars, that they don't hold a charge as well during the winter as they do other times of year. But I don't know that. Anyone have an e-bike that they've played with in the winter? No.
Yeah, I'm an engineer, and that is a fact, though. The batteries don't do as well in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Even your car batteries. Do you remember the old 8-cylinder cars, and you carry your battery into the house? Yeah. So yeah, they don't do quite as well in the winter. I don't have one, so I don't have. But anyway, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a comment about enclosed bikes, and with the big kind of fairing or whatever on them, and I see those around. I have not tried them. I'm willing to go big and bulky and a little bit crazy, but I do draw the line, I guess, somewhere.
I'm wondering if it's more that the more typical e-biker for commuting is not a very hardy person.
I don't know. I see some of these parents with 2 kids in back, and it's, it's been cold or windy or whatever. Like that seems pretty intrepid. But I think there's kind of a mentality part of it too, is like, oh, it's beyond a certain, it's like, okay. And especially if it's little kids you're hauling around, like I got to get everybody that much warmer, including, that sounds like a big chore. So who knows? I hate to ascribe, lazy motives to other people. That seems unkind. So
As far as warm feet, I use these quite a lot, and I walk a lot in the wintertime, like 6 miles or so, sometimes 10 miles. And these are the toe warmers, and they do last, the 3-4 hours that I'm out. So they do work, and they're not very thick. So, and they're, use and toss.
yeah. Yeah, those are pretty foolproof. That's if you really want to keep your feet warm, I think that's the most
Would you hold it
reliable
up
way.
again? Would you hold that package up
Oh,
again
I'm
so I
sorry.
can see what it's called? It's just
Yeah.
called a
Yeah, which camera am I using here? That's the camera. Oh, sorry. Let me see
toe
if I
warmers.
change cameras, maybe that helps. If I can. Oh boy.
Right there,
There it is.
There you go.
There it
There you
is.
go, right there.
are those the chemical ones there, or is that?
Yeah, it's a chemical pad,
Oh, okay.
and I got these on Amazon.
Yeah, Ace Hardware's got them, and REI's got them too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they work.
Remember that.
So I walk all winter long. I have the last couple of years, and they keep my feet comfortable, but without sweating and things, and it works. We change cameras again here.
So I'm surprised with all your bikes, Margaret, that you don't have a fat bike. The nice thing about a fat bike is they're pretty good on ice and stuff without studs. Those studs are probably better. But if
Yeah.
you do want to change the tires, all you got to do is you just let the air out and they basically fall off the rim. They're
Really?
easy
Interesting.
to do, yeah. But I mean, we got some fat bikes a number of years ago and they were a pretty good deal. So we got them pretty cheap, but I don't know how much they are now.
Well, it's kind of like finding something new to watch on TV. It's like, I don't know that I need a new and different extra way of riding bikes. I see Julie there. She's like, I've got plenty of wild and crazy bike endeavors. I think I'm gonna just maybe rent those or test out other people's or something. Who knows? Maybe I'll need a 7th bike.
So Margaret, you ride for commuting mostly, it sounds like, and just going groceries and that. Do you exclusively use a bike for transportation, or do you drive sometimes too?
Well, I drive some and I have a car, but it's like this little game in my head is the longer I can go without riding my bike, the happier I am. And it also makes me kind of talk myself into like, oh, can I do that visit to that person's house or that, can I do that by bike? Oh, I think I can, and that's like, why wouldn't I do that if I can pull it off? And it's really weird because the idea of going for a bike ride just to go, it's like, that doesn't appeal to me at all, which is nuts. But conversely, like during COVID, when there was a period of time I was working from home, I commuted anyway. Because I'm like, well, don't take that away from me. So I would like every day I would ride to work and come back because I gotta. So that's how weird my brain is.
Well, I love bicycling, so it's good for me to hear about this because I've always thought riding in the winter would be dangerous because of ice. But it sounds like with the right tires, it's fine.
Well, and I feel like with studded tires, I am safer on my bike than I am walking to the garage. That's how I know it's going to be a scary days if I have trouble getting to the garage. Then I know I'm safe once I can get to my bike with the studs. I'm home
But once
free.
you do have to stop on the ice, there's got to be some issues there.
Yeah, but you know, you get smart. It's like driving when it's icy. You see a
Yeah.
stop coming and you slow way down,
Yeah,
and then you don't really have to stop.
yeah.
So that's how I do it.
They actually do stop well on ice. The other thing about the nose deal, because yeah, my nose runs
Yep.
like a sieve in the winter. So if you're wearing a hooded sweatshirt, a lot of them have these pockets that go. The left pocket goes all the way through to the right pocket.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is getting access to it without falling over, basically. So the hoodies, it works really good. You can, easy to get them, and your hanky and whatever.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The number of hankies I've spread throughout Minneapolis on a cold snotty ride is like I apologize for whoever has to pick up my snotty hanky.
If anyone's eating now, sorry.
Yeah.
But,
It's only snot.
yeah, right. We all do it.
Yeah. Well, and this is the winter. I mean, this is the winter. I think there was 1 week that I did not ride my bike to work because it was too cold. And that was the weekend. It had been, cloudy for I think 3 straight weeks. And that Saturday, it was very cold, but it was sunny, and I felt like I was on amphetamine, so I had to get on my bike. So that was a total win. And then I've been back on my bike since, and now it's 55. So I think I'm back on for the rest of the year. It's good.
Something in the chat about, Dave says he can reuse the chemical hand warmers if you get a plastic bag. A
Huh.
tight plastic bag.
Really? Oh. Interesting. Yeah, and these feel like theoretical issues because it's like sweating was my problem coming home tonight, and my hands were all sweaty in my mittens. So that's a different problem. And that's another thing is there's whole times a year where the temperature is 30 degrees different from when you leave in the morning and when you come home in the afternoon. And that's kind of tedious too, but in a good way.
Well, are there any more questions for Margaret while we have her? It sounds like she's a fount of knowledge.
Yeah.
Sounds like a real adventure. I'll have to try it.
This would be the year to just, one of these mornings when it's 20 degrees or something. The new wrinkle this year was this frozen fog in the morning. That made it hard to decide which bike I was supposed to ride because I knew it was going to be warm, and yet it's slippery right now. So that's a tough one.
Okay. Any last questions or comments?
Quentin, you're on mute.
So I'll have way stations along the way. If I have a long ride in the winter, I'll do kind of way stations. So it'll be a coffee shop, and I can warm up my feet, and then move on. And I was out once, and this is actually on a hike, but it was 40 below wind chill. So I just stopped different, the coffee shop, warm up, and then I'd go somewhere else and warm up.
That sounds very recreational to me. I got a
So
place to go.
this is all yeah, this is not. Yeah, well, actually, one of them was the bank, one was the Walgreens, so it was all kind of practical.
Errands. I love it. I love it.
Anyway, yeah. So that's another suggestion, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any other comments, this has been a great presentation. Thank you so much, Margaret.
You're so welcome.
And thank you, Barry, for lining her up. So now if you want to stay afterwards and we can just chat in a small group, probably we'll keep it to 10 minutes. Grace, I saw you. If you're still on here. and maybe you can stay after and we can chat about your question if you want, if you have time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the folks who need to go, I guess we can let you go. Otherwise, let's see how many folks are staying on. Yeah. So, okay, folks are dropping off. All right. Maybe Barry, what do you think? Should we just stay in the one group together?
I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Got 17 on, so
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah. I
Well,
mean,
let's start like this and we'll just see if it's too cumbersome, we'll break into a couple of small groups. But we have Margaret. If you have other questions for her, otherwise, if you have questions or want to talk about trips that are coming up. Grace, I saw your question, and you know, I think it would be, you know, well, maybe Jen could address it if she's on. Did you see her question in the chat, Jen?
Yeah, let me take a look at it again.
Yeah.
Need to find my chat. There we go.
Is it possible to post a trip idea?
It is, but it's nice to kind of know who you're going to get a ride with, so you can make sure that you're able to get there. Depending on where you live and who else is going. Yeah, I mean, you could actually send a email to the e-group and say, you know what, I'd like to coordinate this trip, but I don't have anywhere to how to get there. Is there someone who can coordinate with me?
That sounds like a good idea. Yeah, I was just thinking if one other person was on board for it and would be willing to give a ride, that would work. I could also, you know, ask friends of mine who have a car or things like that, but I don't personally have one, so it does kind of restrict the places I'm able to travel.
Yeah, or else you could coordinate a trip very close to where you live or something, you know, meet at a park or somewhere, and you can just bike there.
Yeah, I have only been living in the Twin Cities for like a year and a half now for school, so I have yet to become really familiar with all the places here, but I think maybe it's called like Hidden Falls or something. Maybe there's maybe like walks along the river path would be an idea, and I could get myself there.
Yeah, there's some nice hikes there. Yeah, yeah. Rovers have done hikes there, and there's a kind of a place where you can have a fire or two, or, you know, roast marshmallows or something. You know, or,
yeah.
Yeah, so glad you're willing to volunteer and volunteer such a trip.
Yeah.
I think it's just I don't know why I haven't officially joined the Rovers. I keep kind of forgetting about it, but I think I'm gonna have to officially join so I can get on the email list, and maybe I'd post a trip to East River Flats Park is a place I'm pretty familiar with.
Yeah.
Could be a nice little walk.
Well, yeah, if you want to join, just go to the website. I think you know where it is, right? mnrovers.org. And if you are a full-time student, then it's just $10. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's just my forgetfulness more than anything.
Sometimes it's hard to remember everything. Yeah. So Julie, did you get some ideas or? Because
Oh, you're asking for, oh,
you may not
actually,
know this, Margaret, but Julie's a big biker.
well, yeah, Margaret and I have known for many years. But yeah, and
Yeah.
she is a great biker and she inspires me to get out there in the winter. I am not much of a winter biker. So I'm much of a fair, well, I do like the rain, but other than, I don't really know what but David, of course, he's been a commuter biker when he worked. He was a commuter biker for 30 years. But anyway, it's inspiring, Margaret. And it's a
Yeah.
good thing. It doesn't seem hard to do, but it just
Yeah.
takes some thought and getting to
Well,
it.
that's good. Julie eggs me on in some ways. And, it's like, I think that's everybody, that's all of our jobs. Like, come on,
That's right.
you can do it.
It's just so awesome, and I don't do winter anymore, but I hardly get over on my bike, and I just need to haul it out and go bicycle around sometimes.
I have a question for you guys. Has anyone seen any winter triking with the recumbent trikes? No,
Yeah.
I haven't. I used to have a recumbent trike, terra trike. My arms are numb all the time, so I pretty much gave up bicycling, but I'm just wondering if that was a winter thing.
Seems like it
No.
should work better in the winter. I mean, not better in the winter, but it seems like it would be more stable.
Stable. But
on
if you
an
don't, if people see
bike.
you, that's the other problem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but lights and flags and, the thing I can imagine is not wanting to trash it. I think they're more expensive and getting sand and salt in it. Be
I
my
don't know.
concern.
Yeah, I remember David saying that's a pretty important thing. It's you don't use your best bike in the winter at all.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had trouble though damaging a bike, in the winter.
Really?
Really?
No,
So
not
how
really.
do you care for your bike in between rides in the winter?
Just kind of, washed it down a little bit. I went through college, all 4 years of college. That's how I got to school, and either walked or biked. And I found I actually got hotter biking than I did, if I walked to school.
Well, but how do you wash it off in the winter? I mean, you can bring it inside then?
I think mostly just need to keep things oiled.
Yeah.
It's oil displaces water and stuff, and I don't know.
That's the thing that I added in last year is that every time I went to work when it was warm, I would lube up the stuff before I left. So at least, on a regular basis, it was getting a good dousing of chain lube and stuff. Seemed to
Oh,
help some.
what a great suggestion. I mean, loyal versus washing that's so great.
Salt is kind of nasty, but you have to be careful. But yeah, don't use your best bike. But
Oh yeah, we get salt year round in Florida.
yeah. Although I hear the salt air can be kind of hard on stuff down there.
Thanks for watching this Minnesota Rovers presentation. If you want to see more, please click on the link to our channel or the subscribe button below. Thank you.